So I think something that the military overall does really well is to help try to instill intrinsic motivation, right? You're doing this not for yourself, you're doing this for a country, you're doing this for something bigger than yourself
Yeah.
consistently. Are there any other things that you've seen, whether it's directly communicating, whether just like making people aware that their purpose is important, that have been big triggers to actually get that extra?
I think this is a great example of that. You know, if I'm being frank with you, I'm not a huge fan of the internet, right? But I realize that, that's the way young people communicate these days. And so we have to meet them where they are. And I think storytelling, we have one of our teammates, Nick Lavery, is a above the knee amputee, first guy to ever return to an SFODA after losing his leg. He's a great example of that. He's a phenomenal storyteller, and he is very, very much engaged with our younger population and their parents. And so I think that's one vehicle is just like, hey, um, letting folks know about how amazing this place has been and that it's been more than just, going on combat operations and cool gear and all of those things. So,
Yeah, I agree, and I think we talked a lot about these attributes, but something we also want to just instill in a lot of these young men and women is I ask them a lot of times like, hey, what is your core values? And what do you mean? And they want to rattle off the Army's values or these values, and it's important to us of how do you know your value proposition, the things that you're going to bring to this organization. You got to know yourself first before you try anything hard. You got to look internally, right? Of what are the things that drive you, that motivate you, that in your hardest moments are gonna rise to the surface, and the decisions you'll make in those moments. And we spend a lot of time with our human performance staff, our cognitive coaches back at Fort Liberty, helping kind of tease that out of some of the students. Of you're about to do some physical things, and there's some standards and gates you're going to pass along that, and those are very results focused. But we want them to also know, like, what brought you here in the first place? And that starts with, like, just identifying who they are as a person, what their core values are, and then what value they can bring as an individual to a cohesive team. And then something we do as more senior leaders is we demonstrate, like, hey, if Chewy and I now have been in this for 20 years, as those young students look at us and say, 20 years from now, you should look like this. You should still be running your 5 miles in under 40 minutes.
it's accountability.
Exactly. Peer accountability, personal accountability. And then every opportunity for us to talk about our wives and our families and the things that this profession has done for us on a personal level, just kind of demonstrates to them that the value of doing this is greater than anything else you're going to decide to do in life, right? But maybe you're giving up other opportunities, and yes, we've done some really cool deployments and been to some amazing places, but more importantly, I've done it with amazing people. Like I'm doing a podcast with you and my best friend, right? So I think like those are the things that I think help kind of lift up or elevate that intrinsic motivation, or help people find it of, man, like I'm about to join something that is giving me maybe some structure and opportunity that I didn't have elsewhere.
And it's real. That's the thing. It's genuine, real. Watch this, Ken. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Go ahead.
What are your core values?
Yeah, so mine are trust, humility, and discipline.
And how do you sit down with Cassie and talk about your core values? Just so he knows we're not full of crap, right?
Yeah. So Chewy and I did an exercise with a pretty good, some friends of ours, civilians, external organization, came here, did a leadership development seminar with us. And they gave us these decks of cards with values on it. We did this values exploration. You look at words. If the word resonates with you, you keep it. If it doesn't, it goes away. And then as the pile gets smaller, it gets really hard. You go from like 100 words down to like 10. And then you start bending them in different things. But really what it does, it forces you to define that word. What does that word to me? So like for me, discipline is when hard work becomes a habit and integrity becomes intuitive. But it forced me to define discipline, right? So anyway, I do this. I get my values, and now I can articulate my values as they align with our values as an organization. So now I know what I bring to the organization, to the team, and what makes me unique. So I go home this night and I sit down with my wife, Cassie, and I'm like so excited because I give her this cards, and I'm like, I want her so bad. At this point, we've been married like 15 years. I want my wife to basically, I want her to have my values. And I'm looking over her shoulder, and she's just throwing my values away, man. I'm like, no, you can't get rid of that. So I had to leave the room, but when I came back and I saw hers laid out, I could see in her the values that she bought and how we aligned together. And then from there, we built our family values, the things that we want to hold our kids to, how we'll raise our children. But and as we did this the next day with a bunch of my mates and their spouses, at this point, I'm with a bunch of guys that I've known for years, and I'm walking around the room. I don't know if you remember the couples thing we did, but I remember walking around the tables because Cassie and I had done this a couple times over at this point. But I walked around the room and the tables, and I'd seen guys I've been working with for 10 years, guys that I've known them and their families for a decade, and I could see those individual values in them as those cards were laid out. And that was extremely powerful because, when we came to work the next day, it cleaned up how we communicated as a team. It showed me like, man, this is what this person is super unique at. So me now as a leader, I got to find an opportunity for that person to demonstrate and shine through in this moment at this task, because that's what they're like purpose built for, right? And I think it brought a lot of value to just how we worked as an organization, as a team, knowing what each other's strengths and weaknesses were in a simple exercise with identifying your core values.
But you look at that, right? Fast forward. That was 2 years ago?
2 or 3, I guess.
2 or 3 years ago. Next month, that exact event is going to happen here in our company. And so all of our cadre will do that. And in the evening, they'll bring their spouses and we'll do that same event with them. And so when you talk about leadership and investing in your people, man, it's like, it's full time. We're all in. And, I learned that from him. And so, we're best friends and, we're mates. He's also my mentor, and I'm constantly learning things from him.
And it's weird, right? Because you wouldn't think little things like that. Like, how does that translate to physical performance or optimizing your performance? It absolutely does. Because I think when things are really hard and the chips are down, that's when those things boil to the surface.
That's
and
right.
You really learn who you are. And that's when you got to dig deep and rely on those things the most. And so I think when you're having that moment where, man, it's cold, it's wet, I don't want to go out and do this run today, man, but I said my value was discipline.
Yeah.
Right. But, so now, like, man, I'm going to have to get out there and lace up these shoes and go for that run, right? And stay consistent, because part of discipline is consistency. So I definitely think they translate absolutely to physical performance.